Here at JP's Path of Awareness, and I'm going to continue on with Joel Goldsmith's book, God, the Substance of All Form, and this is going to be chapter 3. It's called Individual Consciousness as Law. As we take any pauses through this, we'll just hold to that soul identity as leading us, guiding us, as being the only one being. Individual consciousness as law. Thus saith the Lord, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, neither let the mighty man glory in his might. Let not the rich man glory in his riches. But let him that glorieth glory in this, that he understandeth and knoweth me, that I am the Lord which exercise loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth. Jeremiah 9:23 and 24. This statement from Jeremiah can be carried out in practical experience. We are not to glory in the world of effect, whether that effect appears as person, place, circumstance, condition, or thing, because the substance, the reality, does not lie in any effect. The power and the glory, the substance and the reality, the cause and the law lie in the spirit which produces all that appears to us as form, circumstance, or condition. We can enjoy and use the things of this world, but our faith and confidence must not be centered in the world or in the things of the world. Our faith and confidence must be in the Spirit which produces, forms, and animates all that exists. No power acts upon us. The Infinite Way teaches that man is consciousness, and that that very consciousness is the cause of body, business, and home. Many people believe that a discordant body, business, or home is due to a power outside of themselves, acting upon them. As long as we accept the belief that there is a power outside of us, just that long will we be seeking to get in touch with a good power to do something for us. If the belief is accepted that a law of time is acting upon our bodies and mentalities, our experience will be on that level. There is no power operating in our experience separate from our own consciousness. But as long as we believe that there is such a power, and as long as we are trying to get in touch with it, we shall never contact it. The world has been praying to God for things. It is no more sensible to pray to God for things than it is to pray to the principle of electricity to light your house. Rejoice not in the things, but rejoice that you understand and know me. The reality of being, your being and mine, and that you understand that being to be God. Then you will see the uselessness of praying to that which forms your own body, your own business, your own home. This is brought out in your experience, however, only in proportion to your recognition and realization that your own consciousness is the law, and that There is no other reality outside of you. I am life eternal. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I and my Father are one. All that the Father has is mine, since I am an heir of God and joint heir with Christ. I and the Father are one, and that oneness constitutes the immortality, harmony, grace, joy, and abundance of my body and my soul. Before Abraham was, I am. Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. The divine consciousness of my being formed me before I was born. It knew me before I was conceived. The reign of God, the consciousness, that consciousness which is my individual consciousness, is going on in my body and in my affairs now. The higher you go in the understanding of consciousness of God as God, the greater transparency you are for the reign of God in your affairs. God is omnipresent, but it requires our conscious feeling of it to make it effective. Mere affirmations are useless because in them you are declaring a God separate and apart from yourself. You are seeing God as being out there instead of understanding life, truth, and love as the consciousness and law of your own being. Jesus referred to your Father and to my Father. We have one Father, even God. Have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me, Philip? He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. The kingdom of God is within you. Greater works than these shall he do. How could anyone do those greater works if the same presence and power were not manifested as his being? No power separate from consciousness. Spiritual healing is accomplished through divine silence, not through conscious thought-taking. When you are confronted with sin, disease, lack, or limitation, watch to see if you immediately begin to refute it mentally. If you do, your very denying of it is proof that in some way you believe it is true. And in the degree that you believe in it, you are the victim of it. When you really know the nature of error, it is not necessary to protest too much about it. We are too apt to go around declaring, I am not sick. A rich man does not say, I am not poor. When anyone goes around declaring that he is not sick, you can well believe that he is not feeling any too healthy and thinks to be made whole by his declarations. In the same way, when you speak to someone about not feeling well, and he responds with the cliche, it is not true, he really does not have an inner awareness that it is not true, or he would not have to voice it. Error, being only a universal belief, is unreal in any form, and it is dispelled by the power of silence. Denials and affirmations serve for a time until we can become receptive to the truth of being. But we should give up their use in our recognition that there cannot be God and error, and we are not going to be fooled by appearances. If we are to show forth principle as substance, law, and cause, we must not accept the belief that there is a condition apart from God, or an activity other than God's government of the universe. The right attitude is the realization of the impossibility of such a thing, and the thank you, Father, that you do know the unreality of such a claim. The state of consciousness which does not hate or fear any appearance is the healing consciousness, and only such a consciousness can say, "What hinders you? Rise up and walk." There is no power apart from the consciousness of your own being. At the pool of Bethesda, the crippled and diseased were waiting for a power separate and apart from themselves to come and act upon them. But had they realized that all power is within their own being, they would have turned within to the power of their own consciousness. And with that realization, they would have had no need of the pool. While we are believing that there is any power that is going to act on us separate from the power of our own consciousness, we, too, are at the pool of Bethesda, waiting for the moving of the water, and we might also have to wait 38 years, as some did, before one of enlightened consciousness comes along to bring us out of it. It is not necessary to wait for complete liberation. It is necessary and important for us to get up and do all that is possible for us to do, even though it seems to be very little at the moment. We should continue striving to gain dominion, and thus gradually the shell of human belief will be broken. The belief that there is a power of evil somewhere that can act upon us. The only action there is mind action. If at the moment we can only move a finger, then let us move that finger, realizing that the dominion and power are always in the Spirit of God, in consciousness, never in effect. Maintaining this attitude of only one power, and that one not something separate from our own consciousness, we gradually come into this awareness. I am the life. I am the truth. I am the power itself. Idolatry is the belief that there is power in effect. It is a faith in that which has form, a faith that that which appears as an external thing has power of itself. The most important thing for you to know is that you are cause and not effect. That all of the Godhead appears as you. It is true that in a material sense, you cannot have 40 billion alls. But in a spiritual sense, allness can be multiplied throughout infinity. For example, an individual can be wholly honest and yet not deprive his neighbor of honesty. Anyone can be 100% loyal, faithful, and true, and yet not deprive his neighbor of any part of these qualities. The allness of God is appearing individually as you and me. All the health, all the wealth, all the peace, all the dominion. What is true of you and me must be true of everyone. To be true, truth must be universal. Therefore, since life is God, and God is your life and my life, It must be the life of all. The joys and fruits of this great truth, however, are brought into individual experience only in proportion to one's conscious realization of it as the inner awareness of God. Life ever present is developed. No power in effect. An infinite individual consciousness, each one of us is a world unto himself, and each one has to find himself to be the law of life unto his own being. The kingdom of his own being. Nothing exists separate from consciousness. The power is in the consciousness that produces the effect, and not in the effect itself. It is only while we believe that the power is in the effect that we continue seeking the demonstration of things. In 1948, a call came for me to go to Hawaii. The call for help was the apparent reason for making the trip, but as it developed, that was but a decoy, because the help given was only a small part of the outcome. Among other things, this opportunity came to meet one of the Hawaiian chiefs, one who told me about the difficulties his people experienced during the Depression and how they met together to try to rediscover the principle underlying the demonstrations made by the early tribes. One day when he was pondering this question, it unfolded to him that if we were in the water drowning and could reach up and catch hold of a raft, it would save him. Then he thought, suppose I reached up and caught hold of only a handful of leaves instead of a raft. With that idea came the realization that the same spirit which was in the raft was also in the leaves, and that the sustaining spirit which would hold him up was neither the raft nor the leaves, but the spirit itself. If you understand this point, you will see that the power, the substance, and the life are never in the effect as such, but always in the spirit itself, the law which produces the effect. This is true of every effect. Once you see that supply is not in any effect, but is in the spirit, you will have the secret of Jesus' multiplying of the loaves and fishes. Then you will see that the same sustaining spirit is as much in the dollar bill as it is in the $1,000 bill. When John the Baptist was in prison, he began to wonder if the Master really were the Christ. And he sent to Jesus and asked him, "Art thou he that should come?" To which Jesus replied, "Go and show John again those things which ye do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me." Matthew 11, 4-6. If the principle that performs the miracles is not perceived, the real truth is lost. And if you do not perceive the principle that performs your healings, you will receive nothing but temporary relief. You must understand that it is not the raft which supports you, but it is the Spirit of God appearing as the raft. Spirit underlies all effect. Eddie Rickenbacker proved this principle when he was able to sit quietly without even telling his friends in the boat with him what he knew, and have his food fly to him, fish jump into the raft, and rain fall from a cloudless sky. He demonstrated that it was not the food or the water, but the Spirit of God, omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, which appeared to him as bird, fish, and water, the Spirit of God, appearing as the thing needed at the moment. Never again look out at the world, at things, and think that anything is your need. It is the omnipresent Spirit of God which fills the need. And if it must appear as money, it will. Or if it must appear as food, health, home, or companionship, it will. It makes no difference what the form is, as long as there is the awareness that the substance of the form is spirit. The substance of all form is spirit, and spirit is omnipresent as each one of you, only awaiting your recognition. God is omnipresent, but God must be recognized because it is the conscious recognition of the Spirit of God that makes it become manifest as the form necessary at the moment. Once we gain the realization that God, Spirit, is the consciousness of individual being, and that nothing exists separate from this consciousness, we shall begin to see that it is the Spirit of God in the leaves or in the raft that would support us. That is the Spirit of God in the 10-cent piece that would pay our way to any place in the world. That is the Spirit of God in the few loaves and fishes that would feed 5,000. We shall begin to see that the supply is not in the dollar bill, but in the Spirit of God that produces it. Let us never forget that. Let us not place our dependence upon a dollar bill or a bond, but upon the Spirit of God that brings them to us. If we were to lose all that we have at one blow, that same Spirit could produce it for us again, until we become so at one with the Spirit of God appearing as effect that we are never tempted to believe that power is in effect. We shall find that the Spirit of God does not operate in our experience, and we shall be on the fluctuating human plane of having much today and nothing tomorrow, until there is an awareness and recognition of the Spirit of God as the substance, power, and law of all effect. It is as if there were no Spirit of God. There is only one way to experience the presence and power of God, and that is through the recognition and realization of Spirit as the reality of all that appears, but always with the understanding that the appearance itself is not the reality. That the appearance itself is not the reality. Concern for the effect persists only as long as there is the belief that the power, law, or reality is in the effect. The moment there is a realization that consciousness, the Spirit of God, appears as effect, there will no longer be concern for the effect. Let this be our theme. Recognize Spirit as underlying all effect. Have no dependence on persons or things, but place all dependence on Spirit. Behold, Spirit, consciousness, appearing as effect, your consciousness appearing as form. So great to have a few of you joining me. I hope you can recognize there that this is the importance. We don't turn to people and just turning to written words of truth. We must realize it's the Spirit within you, within your own consciousness, that is the wisdom, that is the substance, that is the supply, that is the fulfillment of whatever need it is. That's why I always caution many not to get too caught up in conversing with others about your situation or your problems, because see, in your counseling with a person, you just have to make sure that person is seeing clearly that truth, consciousness, is your being. It is not something they know that they're trying to convey to you. In other words, it's something like them being smarter than you. There has to be, again, as Joel talks about here, that the recognition of the principle must be there, or you only get the crumbs. You only get the small effect. You're looking for an effect. You're looking for that you have this problem, which is the cause, and you're looking for an answer, which would be the effect. That's not Joel's teaching in the infinite way. It's a recognition that you have this truth in its allness, in its fullness, and making sure that someone's walking this path and demonstrating it, not just speaking the words, not just sending out a bunch of, as Herb and Joel both talk about, the vain repetitions. We can speak those truths, yes, over and over, but if we aren't living them and making sure that we understand the principle behind them, we can lose a lot of the truth. That's why it's said that the letter of the law killeth. Because see, in understanding just the letter, we're not getting the spirit. We're not getting the consciousness of the principle, of the source, which is God. That's why Jesus said, I of myself can do nothing. It's so important that we turn within. And yeah, it's okay to ask for guidance from a teacher or somebody that is living this truth, but if we're just turning to a person and their human thoughts or their human reasoning or intellect, we're not getting the principle that is being lived. It's so important. That's what Joel was talking about here, that when it doesn't matter if we reach up and grab a hold of a raft or some leaves, the spirit is the same in either. And that principle saves. That principle has substance. Even if it's, again, like he points out too, about the loaves and fishes, even if it's a small amount, it can feed thousands if we know the principle behind it. It's not in the things. It's not in the effect. There is no power in an effect. We only understand that when we truly turn to the principle of the only cause. The only cause includes effect. Doesn't have an effect. It didn't create something and then we're waiting for something to come about as an effect. That's why also Jesus' words so important that you say there's 4 months and then cometh the harvest. See, that's cause and effect. But I say, look up. The fields are already white for harvest. In other words, God's creation is complete. It's here and now. And we don't have to go through a process to get it. We have to accept that it's here and now. That's why the emphasis from all of Joel's students and himself was always to turn within to the now, to the infinite, eternal. We're not waiting for an effect. We're in the now, which never changes. It's always perfect. It's always beautiful, as he demonstrated with his losing of his luggage, to understand that the realization came to him finally that what am I praying to have happen here? There is no luggage. There is no baggage that is lost that I'm waiting to have returned. And that's when they were found. See, we stay away from trying to manipulate the picture. That's what he did. He clearly could see his error in his own thinking in that. Once he knew there was no baggage, that there could be nothing lost in God's kingdom. Nothing, because there is no things. So that's the truth of that principle. That there is no power in effect. So I hope that's helpful. And look forward to talking. Message me if you would like, please, to my email. And we'll love to communicate. I'd love to meet a few of the new members. Thank you so much, and such a blessing to share with you. And look forward to talking very soon. Blessings.